Hey everybody, this is Korie with CVMA, and today we're here to talk about the front stance. The front stance is going to be one of the first stances you're going to learn in the beginner curriculum. So let's go ahead and start talking about the structure of this stance. So in order to get into a front stance, the first thing we're going to do is put our feet together, and we're going to go out with the left leg first. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take our left foot and we're going to go straight out, shoulder width apart. My feet stay on the same line horizontally, so my feet are even. I'm going to look down at my left foot. I'm going to draw a horizontal line right at the top of my left toe. So it's going to go right across here. I'm going to draw that imaginary line. I'm going to pick up my left foot and I'm going to put my heel right on that line. Then I'm going to do it again. Draw the line on my left toe. Put the heel right on that line. Now the next thing I need to do is settle weight. So right now my legs are straight. My weight's sort of in the middle. And I don't feel real stable here. So this is what we call a 60-40 stance. So 60% of the weight is going to go on my front leg, 40% of the weight is going to go on the back leg. So what I'm going to do to transfer the weight is I'm going to bend this knee just to enough where I can see the front toe. If I overbend, I can't see any of my toes, but now I'm past my foot, which is going to put me at risk from a balance perspective. If I don't bend enough, I'm too high and I end up being unstable here. So if I was attacked or pushed or grabbed, I'm not going to be able to defend it as easily because I'm not in a structurally sound stance. Again, when I look down here, I'm only seeing my big toe. If I bring my knee in forward, I can see all my toes right now, but this is real dangerous for my knee. I'm going to end up falling forward inside of my foot as opposed to stacking the joints and being able to take energy along the line where the knee is used to moving. Again, even outward is the same problem. So I want to be straight over the foot. I can just see my big toe here. Then I need to make sure both feet are going forward. So there's sometimes people will kick this foot out here, which it ends up causing some major problems from a structure perspective, as well as from a joint perspective, because if I took energy directly into me, that's going to end up moving this knee back. It's possibly going to roll the foot, and I'm going to be in some major trouble. So I need this foot to be going forward. So all 10 toes, all going forward. As I go here further into the stance, hips, torso, shoulders, all forward. So there are arts that will have this hip turned out slightly. For Taekwondo, we typically have our hips straight forward. Because we don't fan this foot, we also don't fan this hip because it doesn't quite work well if one is done but the other is not. So as we move further up into the stance, shoulders are forward, head is forward. I'm going to take my hands, make a fist, turn them palm up, and bring them back to my ribs. Some arts start their hands down here at their belt line, but for Taekwondo we'll typically have our hands up toward our ribs. So this is the basic structure of the front stance. Now, looking at it from the side, what you're going to notice is with my elbows, I'm not pinning them hard, together, and I'm not fanning them out here. They're just naturally kind of straight back. If we're going to get into this stance from the side angle, what you're going to see is this back leg, when I step out, draw the line, and put the weight down, this leg is straight. It's not bent, but it's not hyperextended. Hyperextension is going to put you at risk. Anytime you take energy this way, it could end up folding the other direction, which is never good. But if it's bent, I'm going to end up giving on that leg, and I'm not going to be able to take that force coming into me. So this leg is going to stay straight, and as everything is going forward, all those toes are going forward, that's what's going to give me that structure to be able to take force this way and deliver force out directly forward without compromising my knees or compromising the stance structure as a whole. So when we step out into this stance, we typically start by saying, bring the foot straight out, draw the line, bring the foot up, draw the line, bring the foot up, bring the knee down, bring the hands in. Obviously, that takes too long for combat. So we need a way to move a little quicker. So as you start to learn this stance and get comfortable with it, you can bypass some of those steps. So if you notice, we say step out shoulder width here. So the width of my shoulders is the width of my feet. When I step out, I'm stepping out 2 foot distances. It ends up being about shoulder width. So what you can do to make this step a little easier is you can take the foot, go straight out shoulder width, and then also step forward shoulder width. This eliminates the need to draw the line, put the foot, draw the line, put the foot, and it gets you about to the same place. So the intermediate step for a front stance would be here, here. Now, obviously for combat, that's still a little too slow. We just need to be able to step out into it. So what you can do to shortcut this, and where you want to get to eventually, is you want to know how far away and at what angle it is from start to finish. So the only way you're going to get that is to just keep doing it, keep practicing it. You can put something on the floor to maybe give you a marker so you have something visual to look at, but eventually it just needs to be feel. So where you want to get to is you want to be able to step the foot out here, get a feel for that, come back to where you started, and then just step the foot out at an angle. And see if you can land in the same spot naturally without looking at it that you would if you went through the entire process. So when you're working toward your front stances, start at the beginning, draw the line, go into the stance, get comfortable with that. Then graduate to that intermediate step and see if you're landing in the same spot. If you find that when you're starting here, you're drawing your line, you're putting your foot about here, but when you step out here, you're stepping real tall or real wide, you're going to have to fix that, right? So you're going to have to stop, go back to the beginning, draw those lines, run through the whole thing again, and then slowly step out, imagine yourself drawing those lines, and just try to figure out from your body's perspective how far you need to step to get to that spot. Then once all that makes sense, then you're going to put the angle on it as well to take away the need to do this halfway step. So we're just going to know shoulder width is here, shoulder width is here. That gets me to about right in that spot there. I'm going to step. There's my stance. I feel comfortable with this. This feels like the stance that works for me, and I'm going to go with that. So as you're learning this stance, you're going to move through those 3 stages of setting up the structure of the stance. But the structure of the stance is very important, so you don't want to rush that learning process. So now we know what the stance looks like, but it doesn't really do us much good if we can't move in it. So now we're going to talk about how we move. So let's say we're in a front stance here. If I just took a step, if I just stepped forward, that feels really awkward to me. Because of the way my weight is settled and because I'm shoulder width distance in between my feet, it's really awkward to step forward without bringing my feet together or bringing my hips to one side to move my weight. So in order to step forward, we use a concept called a C-step. So we're going to take our back leg and we're going to come up and meet the front leg here. So we're just taking a diagonal step. We're just bringing the back foot straight up to the front foot here. Now notice when I step, I'm not raising up. I'm not standing all the way up. I'm going to go from here. I'm going to keep these legs engaged and I'm going to meet the feet together. So I took the diagonal step. Now I know I need to get out there to finish the front stance on the other side. So I'm going to take another diagonal step and step out into the stance itself. That's our C step. So feet come together, then the back leg advances and becomes the front leg. Now, that's the beginner intermediate way to do that. But again, in combat, we need quicker action. We need quicker movements. So instead of coming together where I'm a little more vulnerable, this is not good for combat. Anytime your feet are together, you can be moved in any direction. You're not mobile. It's hard to attack from this position. You're going to need to come out into some other stance. So this is really not what we're looking for. We want to have something quicker and something that we can recover from if we get attacked mid-motion. So what I'm going to do is, instead of coming all the way to the foot, I'm going to split the distance. I'm going to find the middle. So as I step forward, I'm going to take my back leg and find the center here. So I'm just going to bring my foot to center. Feet are on the horizontal plane now. Legs are still engaged, but instead of coming all the way over, I'm just in the middle now. That allows me to center my weight, makes me feel a little bit better about the movement, so I don't feel like I'm going to fall to the side where the leg is in motion. And if I was attacked from here, I can move real quick and not be compromised by that particular stance transition. So in the C step where we split the distance, I'm going to take the foot, split the distance, and then come straight out. Typically when you're moving in a front stance, you don't want to pick your foot up. So really in any stance, you want to maintain a connection to the ground. So what I'm going to do when I step is I'm going to trace my movement with the ball of my foot. So you can kind of hear it as my foot slides across the floor. I'm maintaining a connection with the ground. If in mid-motion I was attacked, I can put weight on that foot without damage and I can react to the attack. So you really want to avoid picking that foot up because that puts you on one leg and that makes you vulnerable. So if we're moving forward, we're taking the back foot, we're meeting in the middle, and we're stepping forward. If we were to move backwards, it's the same concept. But instead, I'm going to take my front foot, come back, meet in the middle, and then step back. So if you're moving forward, the back leg is advancing. If you're moving backwards, the front leg is retreating. So now to look at this from the side, again, we're stepping forward, back foot, coming up, meeting in the middle, stepping out. If I'm moving backwards, front leg, retreating backwards, meeting in the middle, and stepping out. Again, trying to keep my head at the same level. I want to avoid bobbing because that's showing that my legs are straight and that I'm going to lose a balance and I'm going to lose connection to the ground in a way that is going to make me more vulnerable to an attack. So we now know how to move in this stance, move forward, move backwards, but there are other angles we need to cover. And typically when you're doing forms or you're working in defense, you need the ability to cover multiple angles because you may have multiple attackers or your attacker may move on you. So we need a way to turn and face these different angles. So we're going to work on stance turns. There are two types of stance turns that we use. One is a technical turn. These are typically used when you're going up and down the floor, keep everybody from running into each other, and also to get you to face a different direction, but they're not typically used in your forms. They can also be used in combat, but they're just not typically used in the forms. The forms have their own style of turns, which we call form turns. So we're going to start with a technical turn. There's really only one technical turn for a front stance. So we're going to go in a left leg front stance, and the turn is going to face me directly backwards. So if I wanted to turn 45 degrees, or 90 degrees, excuse me, it's turn. Right? So I just pivot and turn. If I needed to turn this way, we're going to cover that in a form turn. So we know we can go this way, we know we can go 90 degrees to the right, we know we will find out we can go 90 degrees to the left, but how do I turn backwards? Well, in a technical turn, the easiest way to think about it is a triangle. So I've got the front point of my triangle, back right foot, back right point of the triangle. The back left point of my triangle is going to be over there. If I made the triangle this way, I step here and I'm really crossed up and I don't feel comfortable turning here. So front point, back right point, back left point. I'm going to take a straight line from my back leg on the right side and I'm going to move it over to the left. So it's going to go in a straight line. What you want to avoid here is coming up toward the foot. This is going to turn you into an even stance and you're going to be really susceptible to attack at that point. So what I need to do is take this back foot, go straight across, find that back left point of the triangle, then I'm going to rotate on the balls of my feet and find the back. And that's basically a technical front stance turn. Now, when you're doing this turn, you want to make sure that you're stopping your turn directly backwards. And I'll demonstrate that by going the other direction here. So let's say I go right leg out and I want to do a front stance turn. Well, my back leg finds the third point of the triangle. I step and I turn, and there's my turn. But notice how I stopped directly toward you. If I continue to turn, if I continue my hips turning, I continue my feet turning, what you're going to find is you're going to end up in sort of a straight-legged stance toward an angle, and that's really going to put you in a bad spot. So if you find that your attacker is moving as you're turning, you're going to have to adjust to them. Now, combat use of these types of turns is very situational, so we won't necessarily fight an attacker in a front stance and turn and find them a second target in a front stance, but these can be used during attacks, or they can be used to put you in a better position if, say, you do get your feet crossed in combat. You can turn and have a better position against another identified attacker. So technical turns in front stance, there's only really one of them. When we start talking about form turns, there are three. So form turns cover three angles. They cover turning 90 degrees, turning 180, and turning 270. So you cover all angles except for turning in one big circle, which is in a few forms, but it ends up being a very different type of turn. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what we call a quarter turn. A quarter turn is a 90-degree turn. Now, like I said, when you want to turn toward the direction of the back foot, right? So right side, I want to turn to my right, so that's my right leg is my back foot. That's just a pivot. That's just a turn, a pivot on the heels and a turn of the body. That's used a lot in combat, but typically not in forms. When we refer to a quarter turn in a form, we're typically talking about turning toward the front leg's direction. So in this case, my front leg is my left leg. I'm going to turn toward the left side. So in order to execute a quarter turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my front leg. Front leg is going to initiate the action. I'm going to drop my front foot straight back. Again, not going toward the foot. We're going straight back on this one. So if you go back to the triangle concept, right, I've got the front point of the triangle, the left point of the triangle, and now I need the right point of the triangle. So I'm going to take the front foot. I'm going to make that third spot of the triangle. I'm going to again pivot on the balls of the feet, and I'm going to turn. That's going to put me in a front stance 90 degrees from where I was. Going toward the side here, if I was going to turn toward you, I'm going to have my right leg out to start. Again, I got to move right, so my right leg needs to be out. I'm going to drop the right foot straight back. So not toward the foot, because if I go toward the front foot, again, I'm going to turn and end up even, which is really going to be bad for me. So again, front foot straight back, turn on the balls of the feet. That puts me in a front stance 90 degrees from where I was. So that's a quarter turn. When we start talking about half turns, these are 180-degree turns. They're going all the way back, and this turn is used a lot in forms to move either back toward the center or start a new direction. Again, most of the forms are designed such that you end where you started. So we need a way to go out one direction, come back, go out another direction, and come back. So the half turns are typically used to start a new direction or retreat from a direction you were going. So in order to do a half turn, we're going to take our front foot. Again, this is another one where the front foot initiates the action. But this time, instead of going straight back, we're going to cross. We don't want to cross in front because, again, that's going to lock my own feet up. And I'm going to either hurt myself here or turn incorrectly. So I'm going to take my front foot and go back and across my back leg. So again, in this case, instead of thinking about a triangle, we're going to think about a straight line. So I have a point 1, point 2, my point 3 is going to be back there. So it's going to go diagonally. I'm going to take my front foot, I'm going to cross behind, I'm going to find that third point, again pivoting on the balls of the feet and turning and putting myself in stance. Going back toward the other side. If my right leg is out, that's the leg that's going to initiate the action. If my left leg is out, that's the leg that's going to initiate the action. So front leg is still initiating the action, so I'm going to maintain stance with my left leg in front. It's going to step back and across. I'm going to find that third point of the line, pivot on the balls of the feet, and complete the stance forward. So we've covered how to turn 90 degrees, how to turn 180. The final turn is a 3/4 turn. This turn is typically used in a form where you're moving forward, but you're running out of space going forward, so you need to start a new direction, either coming backwards or moving to the side. So most forms, what they'll do is they'll come forward and then they'll move to the right or left. The way this is done, instead of just coming into this stance here and then stepping forward, which makes it more difficult to complete the form because the leg doesn't come back out the right way when you turn again, they will typically do a 3/4 turn. So in order to execute a 3/4 turn, in this case my back leg is going to initiate the action. So in the quarter turn and the half turn, front leg initiates the action. In a 3/4 turn, we're going to use the back leg. So I'm going to use the diagonal line again. So I've got point, point. My third point is going to be in front of me. So I'm going to take my back leg, I'm going to go behind my front leg and find that third point, rotate on the balls of the feet, and end up basically 270 from where I was. If I want to go on the left side, it's the same thing. If I want to turn this way, so my left leg's going to be out, I'm going to take my back leg, find the third point of the diagonal line, and turn. It's going to put me 270 from where I was in front stance. So that's the quarter turn, half turn, 3/4 turn. As you're doing your forms, you can identify these turns real easy, especially in the beginner forms like Tekkeikushidan, Nidan, Sana. They all are based around these types of turns. So these are going to be in a lot of forms you're going to do from now until you learn the advanced forms, which also have them in there. So that's really all about front stance. Big key takeaways from front stance: 60-40, 60% on the front leg, 40% on the back leg. The back leg is straight but not hyperextended and definitely not bent. And everything on the body is going forward. Toes, hips, shoulders, all square, all forward, towards your target. And if you do all of that, it's going to be a really strong and really comfortable stance for you to have. So I'm Korie with CVMA. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.